Okay, good afternoon, hello, and welcome to the Speed Hire Virtual Boardroom on how to hire best backend developers. I'm your host, Sukriti, and I'm back with another stellar panel to talk about the hiring process and strategies of the backend developers. So to be able to hire backend developers, you need to, know a thorough understanding of the skills and, that a backend developer or, is somebody who possesses and is compatible of. In this resource, we outline some of the skills, coding experience, and some of the commonly expected in-demand skills of the backend developers. If you're looking to hire a backend developer, but you're not sure of how to look for it, then today's conversation, where our experts will share their piece of advice and knowledge, may be the perfect thing to help you to hire the right backend developer talent for your company. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Ravi Purohit, who's the Associate Director, Product Management, Rakuten. Sarvesh Kothari, who's the Director, Talent Acquisition Head, Large SPO from Virtusa, and Shubhajit Adhikari, who's the Associate Director, Talent Acquisition from Lowe, India. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining in. Audience, just for your information, for some reason, there's some technical problem from Ravi's end, so he'll be in the audio mode, but he'll definitely answer all our questions. So moving forward with the brief introductions that I have, I would request Sarvesh, Shubhajit, and Ravi to please go ahead, introduce yourself, and tell me what you're looking forward to in terms of the conversation. So Ravi, let's begin with you.
Thanks, Sukriti. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Uh, Thanks for having me, first of all, to this esteemed panel. I think I'm the least eligible to talk on this one, considering that my fellow panelists are veteran in terms of talent acquisitions. But I'll try to pitch in from my product and strategy background and the virtue of spending time with engineers throughout my career so far. Um, I have been contributing to product and strategy throughout my career. And for the past 5 years, I have been leading platforms product for Rakuten, which is a tech conglomerate with 70 plus businesses and a billion plus customers. Uh, Products like digital identity, loyalty points, payments, and fraud preventions were part of my portfolio in this journey. And prior to Rakuten, I was a strategy consultant, helping giant pharmaceutical firms with their go-to-market launches, uh, commercial due diligence, and Salesforce optimizations. That's pretty much about me.
Thank you, Ravi. Sarvesh?
Yeah, thanks, Sukriti. First of all, I would like to thanks Times Group and to you as well for giving me this wonderful opportunity. To give a background about myself, my name is Sarvesh Kothari. I have 18 plus years of experience working in various facets of human resource, some of these being talent hiring, talent management, and talent development. I'm currently associated with Virtusa. This is my 5th year in Virtusa. My current role with Virtusa is where I'm giving a lot of career opportunities to thousands and thousands of people. Prior to joining Virtusa, I was working with TCS, where I had spent a decade, again doing a lot of recruitment and other activities. I also had opportunities to work with some of the leading recruitment consulting firms across the globe. I'm currently based in Chennai, and all throughout my 18 years of experience in human resource, I've been recruiting people. That's about me.
Thank you, Sarvesh. Shubhajit?
Well, thank you so much, Sukriti, for having me here. And I think I'm quite privileged to, for sitting across my other fellow panelists here. Well, about myself, I have close to 15 years of experience behind me in human resources. Experienced various facets of HR, but predominantly my forte has been in talent acquisition or talent attractions. I'm associated with Lowe's for over 5 years, and primarily I've been supporting Lowe's for the technology hiring, which entails in building engineering capabilities, product management, and analytics. Prior to Lowe's, I've worked with some of the large logos like GE, Hewlett Packard, Fidelity, etc., etc. Quite excited to be here and hope some of the inputs what we're going to give out of our experiences of hiring backend engineers and developers. Audiences would get some benefit out of it. And at the same time, we also learn from the audiences based on the questions which we want to receive. So looking forward for next, 50, 60 minutes of interaction.
Thank you so much, Shubhajit. So to start with, thank you so much for coming aboard for this conversation. And I cannot wait to have those questions asked and your insights and answers shared on this forum. So let's quickly begin. So, I want to kickstart the conversation with the kind of methods of hiring that you as recruiters, as talent acquisition leaders, you're using in your organization, or from the industry perspective, if you want to share the trends and the kind of things being used, because COVID has changed a lot of things for us, right? And right from adapting the technology across verticals, I should say, for almost every functionality that we are using in our organizations these days, to even working patterns, everything has changed for us. So, let's begin. I want to have an understanding of what you, as talent leaders, are doing to have the right fit hired and the processes that are being, in use right now. Because we are working in a hybrid mode. We allow people to work remotely, and at the same time, there's cyber threat also coming out, and especially for the IT companies, I should say, there's a lot of threat that has actually erupted in the couple of years. So let's begin with you, Sarvesh. I would want to have an understanding of the methods that you're using and you think industry is, also contemporarily doing it.
Thanks, Sukriti. So team, see, business today requires transformational change, right? Change at a scale and speed that defies traditional ways of working. And according to me, right, talent is something which is the backbone of the Indian software industry, right? Machines will work, but machines will not work unless we have the right talent. And finding a right talent in today's context, today's environment where there's a war of talent, this is definitely a challenge for all of us in the IT industry. So finding a right resource at the right cost is definitely a prime challenge that all of us face in the industry, right? So how do we do this? See, there was a time when we used to just look into the web portals to hire people, right? Naukris of the world or your monsters of the world, these were the only options that were available. I'm talking about early days, right? Early days, as early as say 90s and 95s, right? Today, thanks to COVID, a lot of things have changed. The way we hired primitively versus the way we hire today has completely changed. Today, the focus is on hiring people through social media channels. Today, the focus is on hiring people through employee referrals, which is one of the key source of talent that we tap today. Today, the focus is on hiring proactively hiring people who are not looking for change, right? There are a lot of people you will see that they're not looking for a change, but how do you tap those resources? So some of the tools or some of the methods that we use today is tapping more of the social media channel, which is your LinkedIn's of the world, Facebook and Twitter to some extent. There are a lot of groups that are available in the market, right? We have technology groups, we have Java groups, we have Pega groups, and a lot of other groups which are available in the market. We hire people through those channels. There's a lot of emphasis on employee referral, right? Today, lot of hiring that we do, we also request people to give us references. These references that we get are more reliable, are more relevant to the kind of work that we are going to do, because people who refer these candidates are aware of the background that these candidates are going to work in, and they are aware of the candidate's background as well. From that point of view, right, it is more reliable source. And today, a lot of focuses is there in hiring people through this particular channel. So we are not restricted to one particular mode of hiring, wherein primitively where we were using Naukri as an option, but today we are looking at whole gamut of options that are available to us, right from social media to employee referral to say tapping the pool which is not actually looking for a job.
Thank you, Sarvesh. I think those insights are very helpful, and we do understand that sticking onto one mode doesn't help these days. The kind of changes, evolution that we're looking at. I think this is not just binding us to one thing, but even to evolve in our processes individually. So thank you so much for that. Shubhajit, what's your opinion? What would you like to add here?
Well, Sukriti, I think Sarvesh covered it quite well. You know how, the whole practices around talent acquisition or talent attraction has changed in last, 1 decade or half a decade, right? Now we all seen that like technology have gone through a tectonic shift. Talent acquisition team has also constantly adapting to those ever-changing environment around us. This translates to, of course, those traditional channels which we always have at our disposal to hire from, which I think Sarvesh touched upon, like referrals, social media, etc., etc. But it's also important that how we build capabilities within our talent acquisition members, right, who we call it as recruiters, talent advisors, or talent scouts, etc., etc. How they are also building these capabilities within themselves, upskilling themselves to tap people or to go to those places where these passive talent is available today, right? While the other traditional challenge always is going to exist, within our realm of hiring, it is also important that how we are looking at those non-conventional or non-traditional channels like GitHub, Stack Overflow, Kaggle, etc., etc. Go there and probably reach out to those communities where they are, where they are basically, available for our talent acquisition team to go and hire from those communities, right? A lot of organizations, including Lowe's, have adopted different deep search or deep sourcing capabilities within themselves, which is also tying up to our one of our core behaviors, which is continuous learning. So these are the capabilities what we have given it back in the form of trainings, which is there are many trainings which is available on the web. Also there are organizations which render these trainings on deep sourcing capabilities. Now these trainings is really help our talent acquisition members to reach out to those channels which is unconventional, where you have passive talent available. And I think those are the keys aspect which we have to look at when we are looking at hiring in today's time, right? Because gone are the days when you would rely completely on job boards or job portals to get your talent. The second thing is, I think the the constant expectations of businesses having quality talent coming through the door is also increasing day by day, right? And if you look at the entire talent demographics, we have seen an imbalance, of course, in the backdrop of COVID. This imbalance is quite high, right? There is a lot of demand versus supply. Now, how do we bring in quality talent is another big challenge for talent acquisition teams today. If you look at the entire demographics of employable talent, I think it's only 30-40% which is probably considered as high quality talent, and the 30-40% of people and every organization are behind those 30-40% of those people, right? So how you create experiences for your candidates, which probably a differentiator for you and for your organizations, that a candidate is going to consider you as your employer of choice. So I think these are the few things. One is, look at building capabilities within the talent acquisition team, especially the recruiters. And the second thing is looking at those unconventional channels, which is probably not heard of or not usual, to look for talent, which is passive.
Thank you so much, Shubhajit. I will now move to Ravi. Ravi, I know you have a different perspective to add on to. We have two talent acquisition leads talking about the processes, but you will give us a different angle when it comes to the whole hiring process, because you are somebody who is, a technical pro, right? So you will give us that angle of from the technical lead, from the tech lead, and how the entire process works out. Because in the end, these talent acquisition leaders, pull out talent for you, for your team to work out. So what's your perspective here, Ravi?
Thanks, Sukriti. I believe the entire hiring or talent acquisition process has changed on the three parts. The first one is the sourcing channels, which I think Shubhajit and Sarvesh covered it quite in detail. And talking about the unconventional channels, let me tell you a story that uh, I hired one of my team members whom I met over a lunch club. I never thought that I would do that, but that's how the COVID and the after effects. Uh, the second part, apart from the sourcing channel, which is already covered by my fellow panel members, the other part is uh, the talent, uh, the the kind of bandwidth that we have for the skills. So for example, when I started my career, there was a very strict guidelines for somebody who can be part of a backend or a front end developer or a product manager or a strategy guy, that what sort of educational background you should have. But these days I see a huge change in terms of acceptability by the product teams. If somebody who's really raw in terms of problem solving, people are willing to take chances, because if the attitude is something that they look for, and their skills can be coachable once the person joins the team. So that is a huge change which I see in the last 4 or 5 years happening across the industry and teams. And the third one is the interview process. uh, in the interview process, earlier there used to be multiple rounds. Hiring manager would take a last round, but these things are changing. The rounds are quite streamlined these days, and uh, there are not many repetitive rounds. So, for example, if somebody has been interviewed for engineering, then might not have a lot of engineering rounds. Maybe one or two engineering, then one or two problem solving, one or two, one or two of the strategy part. So the rounds are getting streamlined, not more than 3 or 4 rounds in total. And thanks to the last 2 3 years, there is no compulsion of having that one full day in person grilling of rounds. So it's a very much candidate friendly these days, and very much structured as well across the industry.
Thank you, Ravi. I think that adds on to a very different perspective, and the entire amalgamation of the variety that we have adds on to what I was trying to look at. Moving on to the next one, Ravi, I want to continue with you, and please help me understand that what are the in-demand skills for the backend developers these days, and how is industry looking at when it comes to hiring them? What are the niche things that recruiters look at? You as tech lead, when you want to hire somebody in your team, what are the things that you look at?
Sure. Generally, I have seen there are two stages, two different stages in terms of hiring. Uh, Once, when a hiring manager is looking for a replacement. So, for example, there is a Java developer and who has decided to move out, or there is a need for a Java developer, then the hiring manager is specific looking for a tangible skill. And the second stage is when somebody is trying to develop a team for the longer term. So, for example, there is a big project coming in, and somebody wants to have a talent and want to groom him for the next 3 4 years. So the process of hiring is a little different. In the first one, the real focus is on that tangible skill, and the second one, the attitude would take far more precedence than the existing skill. But having said that, apart from these two stages, the basics, I call it 5+2 formula for the backend developer, based on my interactions with my product and the architect teams, uh, which are the five components of technical skills. And then there are two skills, you can put them into the soft skill or not non-technical skills. The five technical skills are, should be one backend programming language. It could be Python, uh, or it could be PHP, anything but one programming language. The second is data structure and algorithms. The third skill is about the APIs. Fourth one is server and clouds. And the fifth one is the uh, regarding the uh, the HTML, CSS, or JavaScript, some amount of front-end knowledge. And the rest of the two skills, apart from these 5 technical skills, are first one, the core problem solving, which can be tested through a very quick puzzle or a brain teaser. And the last and not the least is the communication skills, because uh, as we are moving in this new age of product development, a lot of innovation is happening through the team brainstormings. And traditionally speaking, it is said that developers are uh, not very outspoken when it comes to those discussions. But if somebody is having that skills, that's really a big plus, because the real innovation happens through developers. The rest of are just creating a stage where they can perform. So that is, in my opinion, summarizes the key skills that I look for whenever I'm hiring a backend development talent.
Thanks, Ravi. I think these were some very, very critical things that recruiters overall look at. And thank you for bringing in that communication part, because today's business model is changing, and you really need to be interactive, and you have to have an understanding, both in terms of you knowing something and you're able to communicate something. So I think communication is the key to work on to any project or any aspect that any one of us is professionally working. And initially, yes, there was this convention that developers or coders or programmers do not have that communication ability, and they just do their niche skills and jobs, and they do it perfectly. But I think since the requirements are evolving, and the business strategies and the growth processes have also changed, there's a lot of engagement that is happening from the developers end also, with several clients, with several projects that they are handling. I think this communication part is also one of the critical things that needs to be added. And like you mentioned, I think others should also mention that to be one of the most important soft skills in today's time. Because if I'm not able to convince somebody on what I'm working on, maybe, or what I am, or what I'm compatible of, or what are my core competencies, I don't think there's any space left for people to just understand what I know, because resumes and your profiles, do not always summarize what you know and how you know. So things change that way. And thankfully, we have add-on tools, ATS these days, which mathematically assesses the candidates of their core competencies and how skilled they are when it comes to maybe solving a business problem, or maybe any programming problem that the company or the organization rolls out to hire them, basically, when it comes to skill evaluation. So thank you so much, Ravi, for adding that. I will now move to Shubhajit. Shubhajit, the recruiters are conducting the skill assessments, as I, mentioned, and those are one of the very important processes put in place after the pandemic, because earlier in-person interviews, you used to just give them maybe a handbook of a couple of problems, and that's why you were able to probably evaluate them quickly. But now, working remotely and assessing people remotely has put in a little bit of challenge when it comes to actually look at impersonating, or people not trying to be when it comes to interviews part. So we have also evolved over the years, and we have a tool called Speed Hire, which actually helps in scalable hiring. And we look at people, we benchmark, and then we have several filters put in through which you can actually benchmark people and let them know. Also, people getting back to their candidates of not being hired is one of the very important elements. So with these tools, with these platforms, with these SaaS platforms, what happens is you are able to tell them that there's this benchmark. If you qualify this, you are through. If you're not, so they have a legit answer of not, coming across the interview process. And thankfully, the things are changing, and you don't keep people hanging in there just to wait for the HR to give them a call if they're selected, shortlisted, or not. So I think that's a very important element. But you help me understand that how are you conducting skill assessments, both when it comes to quantifying and qualifying the candidates, especially at bulk, because we're looking at bulk hiring these days a lot. Especially the IT companies are looking at it, because the kind of projects that the companies are working, you need more resources to work upon it. So how are you doing it in your organization, and how do you think the industry is working on?
Sure, Sukriti. So I'll give a stab at that question. It's a great question. Given that, the role of recruiter has also evolved in last half a decade, right? While, recruiters are expected to lot more than what they used to do, and also add value to, the entire recruitment process, right? At different stages. When it comes to assessing, especially in the hybrid environment, it's quite challenging. Now, I think most of the organizations are solving this problem by two ways. One is technology adoption, and the second one is creating a watertight process, right? Now, as we know, technology intervention needs a bit of change management, a bit of investment, etc., etc. Now, if you do not want to get into that route, then you try to create a watertight process, which ensures that you're able to create a foolproof end-to-end process when it comes to recruitment. And I think TA or the talent advisors, recruiters being a custodian of that process plays a very critical role in ensuring that the success of those processes being implemented well within the TA practices. Well, I can talk more about from Lowe's parlance. When we started, working hybrid and also, started recruiting in a hybrid environment, we have created a very robust guidelines for our panels, our hiring managers, and also for ourselves and also for the candidates to ensure that how, the ecosystem or the setup for conducting a interview virtually has to be done, meaningfully, which also talks about finer details like how to represent yourself in a virtual environment, how to appear in a video interviews, etc., etc., what decorums to maintain, all of that, right? While the other side, it's also an onus for an organization and interview panels and hiring managers to carry out those processes seamlessly, ensuring that there is a good start, good conversation and good end of the interview process, giving a great candidate experience to the candidates. Now, how recruiters are also playing a role here is ensuring that this process is followed to the T. It's one. The second thing is there are controls and audit checks which has been introduced, ensuring that the reinforcement of these hybrid way of interviewing candidates is also followed throughout the process, and at the same time ensuring that in case there are any shortfalls in the process, we are constantly taking those feedbacks and trying to improvise as we go along, right? So now, when it comes to assessing candidates, especially for specific skills, I think it also depends on the tech stacks each organization uses, and I can talk more for Lowe's perspective. Uh, we are actually in a digital transformation journey, which is a multi-years proposition, and in this process, we are trying to move away from monolithic, applications and moving into, modern microservices. And hence, this is a big transformation in last 100 years for Lowe's, right? As a part of that, the tech stacks, what we have used or what we have adopted is open source technologies. And here we are talking about primarily, using Spring Boot, Kotlin, Micronaut, etc., etc. And, for integration perspective, we are using Kafka or REST API, systems and frameworks. Now, now, it is also important for a recruiter or a talent advisor to understand these tech stacks. Of course, we don't expect them to sit and code on these languages or understand these languages like a developer, but at least understand how these, languages or these technologies are helping, accelerate the whole transformation journey. And the moment, talent advisors or recruiters starts talking these business languages, I think it really reduces the effort for a technical panel to a great extent, because the person is then interviewing a very relevant candidate who is required to perform a particular job, right? And that's where recruiters are creating value. And I think with all this, either with whether we are looking at adoption of technology or trying to build processes, I think in today's time the key aspects of being successful in hiring is agility and speed, right? The speed at which we are making decisions, the agility in which we are trying to adopt to the ever-changing environment, I think is remains key and unaltered for any talent acquisition team to be successful. So that's about how we are looking at processes to help assess candidates.
Thank you so much, Shubhajit. I think that gives us a good preview of what you at Lowe and the industry is actually doing. And of course, the digital transformation part, we're still in the adaptation mode, and we're still trying to figure out ways in which we can actually fully be automated. But when it comes to you know the human intelligence and the quotient of decision making, I think that's where the entire thing rests into our hands, and leaders like you would take the final call no matter how technologically advanced we become. Thank you so much for that, Shubhajit, once again. Moving now to you, Sarvesh. What are the hiring strategies and emerging trends for the developers that you would want to share with us today? Because we've spoken about the skill assessments, we've spoken about the in-demand skills that the backend developers can look at. We've also spoken about the hiring strategies and the plans you as leaders have put in. Now, tell us about some of the emerging trends in the coming time that the developers can look at, and what are the hiring strategies that will evolve in the coming time that you can foresee.
Sure. So to me, right, when we talk about the hiring strategy, the first thing that comes into my mind, and that's what we do at Virtusa also, is automation, automation, and automation. Right? That is the buzzword, and that is the only way you can survive going forward. So here at Virtusa, right, and I'm sure this is true to all other IT industries also, we have adopted the automation journey, where the entire interview process, where a candidate appears for an interview, the entire interview process is automated. We use a lot of technologies, in the sense we use biometric tools to ascertain that the candidate who is taking a interview is a genuine candidate. We use biometrics like your facial recognition, voice recognition. These are some of the tools that we are currently using it. We use a lot of chatbots to reply back to the candidates who are looking for a job opportunity with Virtusa. We use ATS to screen or reject the profiles that are not suitable to us and process the ones that are relevant to us, thereby saving a lot of time for our team members in the TAC team, talent acquisition team. So that is something which is very important in today's world. Second most important thing, according to me, as far as the hiring strategy goes, is the candidate experience. Right? There was a time when the candidate used to come to the office physically and experience the working environment, experience the office in person. Right? Today, the candidate is sitting somewhere remotely, and he is having no clue about what Virtusa is or what an IT organization is where he is trying to join. So candidate experience plays a very important role, and it starts right from the time when the recruiter initially connects with the candidate till the time the candidate gets onboarded. The entire journey, right, it can take 2 days, it can take a week, it can take a month. The entire journey is very important, and we have to ensure that we are giving a better experience to the candidate. The third thing that we really focus on is the diversity hiring, diversity and inclusion, right? There's a lot of emphasis, and there's a lot of scope, and there are a lot of research work that has been happened, where it clearly says that the diversity hiring is very key, and that will really help us in ensuring that the team is more productive. So diversity hiring is one area where we are definitely focusing on as far as Virtusa is concerned, and I'm sure this is the case with all other IT industries also. Another important thing is, right, creating a brand in the minds of the candidates. Right, this is again very important aspect that we firmly believe, and that is something which we are currently focusing on. Very importantly, we have to create brand. Not everybody may not know about your company that is looking for an Java developer or whatever skill that we are looking for. Right, so creating a brand is very important, whereby we kind of create impression in the minds of the prospective candidates that yes, this is one of the right company that can give you a right career opportunity and give you a right sense of employment, in case if I can call that. So developing a brand is very important in terms of the hiring strategy. And last but not the least is the analytics. Today, whatever you do, right, in terms of the numbers that you hire, in terms of the volumes, in terms of the source that you hire people from, analytics plays a very important role, because that is something which will help you understand which are the skills that you are hiring, which are the source that you are hiring, where are the areas where you are going wrong, where are the areas, which are the areas that you can focus on, and what is the course correction that you need to take on. So analytics will definitely help you guide in those areas. So if I have to summarize this, automation is one of the key things that is happening across the industry, and it's happening with Virtusa as well. Candidate experience, diversity and inclusion, you're creating an employer brand, and analytics. Now, coming to your second question, right, in terms of the what are the perspectives of the developers, right, especially the backend developers, right. The first thing that I would want to let all of you know, right, especially the ones who are kind of aspiring to become a backend developer. According to me, backend developer is the backbone of software industry. Today, all of us use internet in some shape or form. It can be right from ticket booking, which is your railway ticket booking, or it can be doing a banking transaction, or talking to your loved ones virtually over a video call, right? Anything and everything that we do today involves internet. Now, something that we see with our own eyes, right, in terms of the visuals, in terms of the graphics, in terms of the fonts, that is something called as front-end technology, right? There's a lot of things which happens in the background. For example, right, you fill up a form, you give all your information, and then you click the submit button. Now, where does that data go? What happens to that data is something which is called as backend technology. The data is processed, data is stored, and then the result is generated for the end user. So that is something called as backend technology. Now there are a lot of emerging trends for the people who are currently aspiring to become a backend developer. One of them is moving the legacy system, right, which we call as legacy system migration, wherein there are a lot of softwares, there are a lot of companies which are still using the legacy system, which is your mainframes of the world, which is your C++ of the world. So migrating from the legacy system to the new system, which could be your cloud. This could be your micro systems, right? So moving from the old system to the new system, that could be one way of looking at it. Artificial intelligence is something that we are currently talking about. That's the buzzword in the IT industry as well. Artificial intelligence is nothing but connecting the various devices through internet. That could be one option that can be looked at. Blockchain is another area where we need a lot of backend developers. Blockchain again is basically dividing each transaction into small pieces of blocks. Machine learning is another area where we need a lot of backend developers. We need backend developers for mixed reality, which is your AR and VR. So there are a lot of scope. There are a lot of areas where we need backend developers, right? Just to give you some statistics, in one of the statistics that I was reading yesterday, the IT industry is currently employing 5 million people, 5 million software engineers, right? Now, out of these 5 million software engineers that we are currently employing, the IT industry is employing in India, almost 36 to 37% of them are web developers. Basically, these are the people who will do the web designing, right? Your front end and back end. So almost 36% of the people are currently web developers, and as per the statistics, by 2025 this will reach to almost 45 to 50%. So that's the kind of growth that a backend developer can aspire to with all these emerging trends that I spoke about, which is your artificial intelligence, migration of legacy systems, blockchain, machine learning, mixed reality, which is your AR and VR.
Thank you, Sarvesh. I think you've given us a whole lot of elements to look at when it comes to the entire strategy and the trends that the developers can look at. Shubhajit, I have a question that I've received from the audience for you. It's Shrikant who's asking that how to do interview audits to make sure desired experience is delivered to the candidate. It's done during or post interview. So this is coming from the candidate experience part, like Sarvesh was just mentioning. Our candidates have become our customers these days, and they kind of hold the reputation of the brand they have an experience of interview with. So tell us from that perspective that when it is it done during the interview or is it done post interview?
So just to answer that specific question, Sukriti, I think it is done at both the instances. One is during the interviews as well as at the end of the interview.
Mm-hmm.
Now, end of the interview is mostly to validate all the data points, while the information is collected during the process has been has been happening, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
to solve for this problem, there are technologies which is available, and I think one of the things which has really emerged in the last 2 years in the backdrop of COVID, and the moment we started doing a lot of things hybrid and virtually, is emergence of a lot of these recruitment services, what we call it as recruitment SaaS services, right? Which actually helps us with some of these aspects, right? In terms of how to control plagiarism, how to control how to check for authenticity, etc., during the interview process. Now, in case you're not looking at it, any sorts of a technology investment at this point in time, I think, like I had mentioned earlier, this problem has to be solved through processes, and processes which are watertight. Now, you can actually create a process just around this, ensuring that you're capturing, for example, at Lowe's, like I had mentioned, that we have created a guidelines, for all our stakeholders who are involved in the recruitment process, be it the business stakeholders or as well as talent acquisition team. Now, that really talks about the role of each of these individuals who are interviewing candidates or interacting with the candidates. Now, the process is basically very frugal, where you're probably allowing to record an interview sessions, or probably create put a a snapshot of an interview, and at the same time validating those data points with other attributes like a PAN card or a Aadhaar card, etc., etc. And at the end of the process, you're running periodic audits to ensuring that the process is watertight, and the individuals who are responsible to carry out this process are also abiding to those guidelines, right? So that's the very frugal and probably a very resourceful way of working around this, in case you're not looking at technology. But if you have an capability to bring in technology to solve for this, I think that would cover most of these issues. And I think the platforms which have built are quite modern today. They are AI based, so it would create a solutions for your end-to-end recruitment process, and that would probably translate into ensuring that the process is watertight. And I think, just going back to Sarvesh's thing, I think candidate and throughout this, and I think one of the underlying expectation is the candidate experience is not compromised, right? The individual or the candidate who's going through an interview process, for him, the technology should not come as a hindrance. The second thing is, I think this is my own pet theory, that you recruitment is not just having a requisition and then just looking at how to fulfill that requisition, but it is the thing what you do in between, right? Which talks about the processes, which talks about the experiences what you're giving to an individual. And organizations are, right, like Sarvesh mentioned, are emphasizing a lot more on interview or candidate experience, and that's where organizations are trying to create their own niche space, ensuring that the experience what an individual is going through or a candidate is going through is better than the other organizations, because in the talent war today we are in, I think, um, we are competing to hire talent with some of the large mature organizations like Google, Facebooks, Microsofts of the world, and Amazons of the world. Right now, these are remember that these are quite matured organizations, and their practices are also quite world famous. Right now, how an organization which is probably a smaller in size, or probably mid in size, can really create a niche for himself, and able to, and should be able to attract talent. I think the only way to do is by giving a great candidate experience to those individuals, right? And we constantly face this problem today, that candidates are with multiple offers. There is an exciting offer a person has received from Amazon, etc., etc. I'm sorry, I'm just calling out few names, but that's the reality, right? Now, how you can still create a niche for yourself is just through your experience, what you're giving to your candidates. Not you cannot win a compensation war. You cannot win in the whole array of benefits, equity, these kind of things over other organizations. But where you can really create your own niche is by giving this whole experience to a candidate. And I think those are the things which really stays with the candidates for a long time.
I completely second you, Shubhajit. And everyone who's come on this forum has agreed to this point that, of course, candidates having several offers, and how can you give them a better experience when it comes to the entire hiring process, and give them more clarity onto each step that is involved precisely. And because it's a very small industry, IT industry today, somebody is working with Sarvesh tomorrow, you might just be, keen on hiring him or her. So, you kind of carry that as a candidate, you kind of carry that reputation, that impression, that brand impression that you had a great experience, even though you're not hired, but you had a great experience in terms of questions, in terms of the people handling that we precisely talk about. So I think very well said, very well quoted that the candidate experience is a must, no matter how big or small an organization you are. So thank you so much for that. Before I wrap up, since you're experts, all of you sitting here, I would want to know one mantra of hiring, techies that has worked for you, across your professional experience, I should say. So Ravi, I would want to start with you. Tell me one mantra that you've discovered or maybe has worked out for you, that you've looked upon throughout your professional career to hire the best techie or a tech professionals for your team.
Sure, Sukriti. One thing that if I need to share from my experience, that would be always go for an attitude, and skills can follow. So, so that is something which I have really based entire my talent acquisition strategy so far, building teams for either it's a product development or a product management. I worked on that one. And secondly, just on to add on top of that, whenever I hire a senior guy, a senior manager or a group manager or even associate director, I always make sure the point that how well networked that person is, because when we are hiring for a senior person, and if we are just hiring for what they individually bring to the table, then I think we are not having a good bargain. When you're hiring somebody senior, then you're hiring a lot of his connections as well, which will come down the line. So these two, I would say, would be my go-to mantras.
Thank you, Ravi. Sarvesh, what would you like to add here? Because I know this is very personal that people follow and abide by. So what would you like to share? You're on mute. We cannot hear you. Yeah.
Sorry. Adding to what Ravi had mentioned, right? I strongly believe in three things, and that's what I look at when it comes to hiring any recruiter, any technical resource, right? One is the attitude that Ravi rightly pointed out. The second is the learnability, right? Today, learning is very key. Learning is the only thing which is constant, and unless you learn constantly, you'll not be able to be on top of the no curve or ahead of your colleagues. The third thing that I look at is the stability. Very, very important. Today, if you look at the profile, I'm sure my fellow colleagues will also agree to this, that people have 5 years and they've changed 5 companies. I can't believe that, right? What's going wrong, right? Just because somebody is giving you 50K or 60K extra, that doesn't mean that you should be changing your jobs. You should join an organization to build your career. You should join an organization to learn and move forward in life, rather than just switching for the compensation. So my key thing is attitude, learnability, and stability.
Thank you, Sarvesh. Shubhajit.
Well, I think both Sarvesh and Ravi covered it quite well. And what I also believe is that typically, when it comes to hiring great talent, you actually pay for the skill and hire for the attitude, right? And that's exactly which goes down. But I think apart from some of the points which Ravi and Sarvesh has covered, I think one thing which uniquely which resonates with me is learning agility, and the second thing is continuous learning, right? Now, why this two things is basically we also wanted to ensure that an individual is staying invested on his or own learning as well, right? While across different levels, individuals have different learning curves, but it is important that how you stay invested in your own learning, right? And that's something really showcases the individual's capability to stay invested on his or own growth. And of course, a lot of other peripheral aspects which comes into picture, like his ability to coach, mentor people if you're at a senior level, how you're able to work in a larger team setup, etc., etc. But I think staying invested on your own learning, continuous learning, is one of the important aspect, what I believe is one of the important attribute for a good techie, right? Because I think we're also staying in a very exciting times of technologies which is constantly changing, and how an individual, especially a techie, keep himself updated about these newer things is also important. Hence, investing on these learnings is extremely important.
Thank you, Shubhajit. I think we had a wonderful, conclusion to our conversation with this. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. I am so delighted to have this conversation, the elements, the insights that each one of you have shared. Ravi, Sarvesh, Shubhajit, all three of you. Before this, before we conclude and wrap up this conversation today, I would request each one of you to give me the closing remark and how thoroughly you enjoyed the conversation. So let's begin with you, Shubhajit.
All right, I think I quite enjoyed, and I think there are some great insights and learning which I received from my fellow panelists. I think the topic which we have chosen is quite palpable at this point in time, given that there's so much of hiring happening in this space, right? And why it remains important for all of us to look at things a little differently when we are looking at hiring for this particular skills or competencies. So I think I really enjoyed the conversations and some great insights. Probably some of them I'm going to take it back and see how I can build upon them, and probably help some of the developer community to prepare themselves for interviews and roles in the backend development engineering roles.
Thank you, Shubhajit. Sarvesh?
Yeah. So Sukriti, no, anything to do with any topic to do with recruitment is very close to my heart, right? So for two reasons. I'm very passionate about recruiting people. Second, I strongly believe, and I kind of told this during my conversation also, that we not just give jobs, but we provide careers to people, right? So these are the two reasons why I'm very passionate about recruitment, and I've been doing recruitment for almost 18 plus years now. Obviously, it's a wonderful platform to talk to you and to the fellow colleagues of mine who are here. Like what Shubhajit had mentioned and Ravi had also mentioned, it's definitely a very good learning experience for me as well. There are a lot of takeaways for me from what Shubhajit has spoken and what Ravi has also spoken. So looking forward to more sessions like this in future as well. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Sarvesh. Ravi?
First of all, thanks for having me, and apologies because of the technical glitch. I couldn't have my video turned on. But it was a great experience, Sukriti. It was a great opportunity when you reached out. Initially, I thought that it might be a little out of place for me because considering the two veterans in the talent acquisition, and I focus on something else, to be honest, in my day-to-day. But yeah, talent acquisition is part of any product manager's life. Uh, and it was great to hear different perspectives. I cherish these opportunities, and also in a way of giving back to the community. I'm sure through this channel would have been reached out to many people who are watching this, and maybe can connect later to just exchange thoughts and share their insights. So yeah, thanks for having me, and it was a great experience with my fellow panelists.
Thank you, Ravi. I'm grateful to all three of you for being a part of this conversation and sharing your knowledge and experience with our audience today. I'm sure our audience watching us live has they have this chance of taking away so many learnings from all three of you when it comes to your diverse experience and your career path that you guys have and the experience of hiring techies in your organizations, in your past organizations. So this brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so much, Sarvesh, Shubhajit, and Ravi, for being a part of this conversation. And audience who are watching us live, I will be back with another conversation for you with some other experts, of course, on the panel to talk about some other profile that can help you in your professional career. We have recorded this session, and in case if you missed out to anything that our two experts have shared, please feel free. The video will be available in 24 hours, and any which ways will be streaming on social for you. So go back in case if you've missed anything, go back, learn, and I will get back to you next week with another conversation. Till then, everyone, please stay safe, take care, have a wonderful weekend. Sarvesh, Shubhajit, and Ravi, thank you so much once again. I'm so grateful to have you on the show.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Sukriti. Thanks,
Shruti, for having
Shubhajit.
us.
Go
Thank you,
ahead, Subhajit.
everyone, and have a great weekend ahead.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much,
everyone.
Shruti. Thanks, Ravi, and thanks, Subhajit. Really wonderful having you.
Absolutely. Pleasure is ours.